Man, my name is Martin Pettigol, and I'm telecasting or streaming live once again from Pennsylvania, United States of America. And it is 2:07 Eastern Time, and I know in Ghana it's almost 7 p.m. We all know what is happening between Ukraine and Russia. One day we just woke up around this week, and then there is an invasion. And today we have an expert in security issues, and he's called Mr. Adib Saani. I hope I got your name right, sir.
Adib Saani.
Correct. Don't worry. My wife has Americanized me. So, Adib Sani, he is an
Exactly.
expert in foreign policy and security analysis. That's his area of discipline. And today he's going to help us to understand what is really going on in what is really going on between Russia and then Ukraine. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our specialist, Sadiq. Um, Tell us, how are you? What's going on in Ghana now?
It's okay.
Oh,
Just the usual politicking and the e-levy wahala that they are having to contend with. But
oh,
generally,
oh,
I think the country is much more secure than the others within the West African sub-region. So
oh,
we cannot complain.
all right. Okay, Abib, just walk us through. How did we get to this point? How did we get to this point? Russia invading Ukraine. Just take me through that.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me say a very good afternoon to you there. And for anyone joining us from Ghana, a very good evening. Um, and let me also thank you for the opportunity uh, to do this presentation. Because for
Mhm.
anyone to sit anywhere in the world and think this has nothing to do with him or her, I think the person would need some re education. This has far reaching socio-economic, even cultural consequence to the whole global community, even though it is just a thing between two countries. After the Second World War, uh, the Western Europe and America decided to come together to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which actually is a military treaty amongst these countries. And there's an Article 5 of the treaty which says you touch one, you touch everybody. So it is for the joint, so to speak, security advantage to all of these countries who are members of the organization. At the same time, we had the Russians who had also chalked a lot of successes after the Second World War, coming together to form the Warsaw Pact with some Eastern European countries. Unfortunately for them, the Warsaw Pact didn't really see the light of day, but NATO exists to date. To put it into very simple perspective, what Russia is seeking to do is to create a buffer between Russia as a subcontinent and, of course, uh, NATO, because most of the countries in Western Europe and, of course, in Eastern Europe, to all the way to Belarus and Ukraine are NATO members, and currently there are, I think, 30 NATO, member countries. It is Ukraine and Belarus that forms that buffer between NATO and Russia. And
Okay.
now Ukraine wants to join NATO. So what in essence it means is if Ukraine succeeds, there will not be any buffer between Russia and NATO. And what it also means is the US, for example, can bring all of its arsenal into Ukraine, which is Russia's immediate neighbor.
Mhm.
This has far reaching geopolitical and security implications on Russia, which thinks that in the future, the West can stage attacks against Russia from the convenience of Ukraine, which is next door to them. Secret or intelligence agents can come in and go out much easier. So what Russia is seeking to do is to create that buffer, the continuous existence of that buffer between Russia and NATO. Secondly, before I even come to the second issue, this is also based on certain historical antecedents. Let's not forget when the Americans tried using Cuban dissidents based in US to topple the Fidel Castro administration in what is known today as the Bay of Pig invasion and failed woefully. The following year in 1962, the Russians, reacting to moves by the US to station missiles in Turkey and Italy, also decided that fine, we will also move some missiles, okay, including nuclear weapons, into Cuba, which is too close for comfort to the Americans. So that is when the Americans said, no, we are not going to allow that. And it came close to a nuclear confrontation between the Americans and the Russians. And that was a very dangerous time in our history, okay, because nobody would want his enemy to be his neighbor.
Right.
So I mean, it is in their security interest to keep an arm's length, people they perceive as being their enemies. And let's not forget that in 1963, Russia tested the most powerful ever nuclear bomb in the world. It is actually a hydrogen bomb called the Tsar bomber, which is thousands of times more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki put together. And believe it or not, uh, they had to reduce it. It's in kilotons. They had to reduce it to its minimum level, like the minimum level, to be able to test it, because the power alone is words cannot describe it. It's unfathomable. What it means is, if it were tested in Tamale, those in Accra would feel the impact. That should
Mm.
tell you, even though it was reduced to its barest minimum, and they still have a lot of it in stock. Okay. Now the next issue is, when you read carefully Western narrative, even the media narrative about Russia, it is all about, oh, it's a dwindling force. Russia is not as it used to be when it was USSR and all that. So when Putin came, he had serious misgivings about the way Russia was run under Gorbachev and, of course, under Boris Johnson, because he thought that these leaders had allowed these small, small countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Latvia, Czechoslovakia, and the rest, to all secede from the USSR when we could have actually kept them. Okay, so Putin is also trying to take advantage of what is happening to reassert Russian dominance, Russian strength in not just Eastern Europe, but within the global stage. That is why you now have Russian mercenaries, the Wagner Group, being sought after by different countries, including Mali, including Libya, and even talk of Burkinabe authorities under the new military junta, who, of course, are also seeking to use their services. When the coup happened in Burkina Faso, those Burkinabes who came to the streets to jubilate were actually holding Russian flags. Okay, so all these countries, it's not just constricted to the US and Russia, even China. The biggest American military base on African soil, Camp Lemonnier, or is it Limonia, depending on where you come from,
Yeah.
just a few kilometers from there, the Chinese have also established their military base. So all of these countries are trying to re-emerge and prove to the world that, hey, we are still a powerful force to reckon with. All right. And there were negotiations ongoing, and even the foreign minister of Russia came out to say, Sergei Lavrov, that they were making headway, and that some of the sticking points, the Americans are now relaxing. But I don't know what happened. What really went wrong? All of a sudden, Putin decided that, hey, I'm going in, and he went in under the pretext of addressing the security concerns of the Donbass people, who are largely Russian-speaking Ukrainians.
Okay.
Okay, so the Donbass region is made up of Donetsk and Luhansk. Okay, and the agitation started after the Russian puppet government in place was overthrown in a popular revolution in 2014, and that was the same time Russia also decided to take over Crimea, which actually, believe it or not, okay,
Mhm.
under Stalin, it was part of Russia. Crimea was part of Russia.
Yeah.
But Russia and Ukraine were so close. Historically, it's even one entity. Okay, were so close that they decided to hand over Crimea to Ukraine as a sign of friendliness.
All right. Let me just ask you. Let me just cut in and ask you a question. When you talk about the Donbass, which side of Ukraine are we going to find the Donbass? Is it where the
Okay,
yeah? Which
it's
part of
Eastern
Ukraine?
Ukraine. It's
Eastern
Eastern
Ukraine.
Ukraine. It's
And
between mainland Ukraine and, of course, Russia. So that region between mainland Ukraine and Russia is the Donbass region.
that is where the conflict is taking place right now.
No, now the conflict has escalated. It is now taking place all over Ukraine, as far
Oh,
as the western side of Ukraine, including Lviv, Kharkiv, and some other parts of the country. So it has now escalated beyond the Donbass region.
so let me ask this question: why at this time Putin had the whole of 5 years to go on this campaign? Why at this particular time has he decided to go on this campaign?
Okay, so there was a Minsk agreement, okay, that they agreed in principle to hold election within the Donbass region to respect, some, they had some few protocols in place. However, it's it took a turn for the worse when Ukraine started making overtures over their intention to join NATO. This is something the Russians will not agree to. Absolutely not. So they didn't even want it up for discussion on the table. However, the president insisted. And also, the Russians felt there was a number of anti Russian behavior
Mm,
demonstrated by the regime in Kiev. And according to Russian authorities, when things like this happen, I don't rely on CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. I mean, if you
okay.
are a student seeking knowledge, it's always important that you listen to the other side. I watch a lot of Russia Today TV. I,
Okay.
I do. I watch Turkey, TRT. I
Okay.
watch Press TV from Iran, so I get different perspective to
Yeah,
this.
but
So
can
when
you
you follow Russian media,
can you
sorry,
recommend some Russian TV so that some of us who are listening to you will decide to, because we want to
RT,
get all the information.
RT,
Uh,
RT is the most popular. and
RT,
and they stream, yes, they stream Russia Today, they stream live on YouTube.
and it's in English, right?
Yes, it's in English. Yes, that is
Right. Okay.
the CNN version of Russia. And I also listen to a lot of CTGN. It was first CCTV, the Chinese state broadcaster,
Okay.
then Press TV, Iran.
Well, the whole world is seeing Putin as a demon, but scholars in security issues will conclude and say that he's trying to secure his country for the future. Um, what you got to say about that?
Okay, there's a saying in security that no war is ever too good and no peace is ever too bad. So no matter how justified the war is, it's still not good. And no matter how unjustified the peace is, it's still worth it. Okay, even though he has some points, and at the UN Security Council, the Chinese representative said that, look, we've ignored Russia's security concerns for some time. Okay, we're talking about, oh, they shouldn't do, but no country would allow that, for crying out loud. I mean, even the US would not allow their enemies get close to them. And the US would have what we call preemptive warfare. No matter where you are in any part of the world, they would go after you so far as you pose even a remote existential threat to the security of America. US decided to go after the Taliban in Afghanistan because they saw them as a threat.
Yeah.
They decide to stage air raids as far as in Africa because they feel that we have to go after these people in their from wherever they are operating. They stage attacks in Syria against targets in Yemen and the rest. So you can see how remote they are from America. How
Yeah.
about if they come close to America? You see? So I think that he has some legitimate concerns which really has to be looked at. However, I'm still very much opposed to the war
Yeah.
because it leads to needless loss of life, destruction of property. I saw uh, a CCTV footage that was played on Western media, how a missile, a cruise missile, hit an apartment block. Luckily, nobody was killed, but a lot of people were injured, including children. It's going to create a refugee crisis because it is estimated that about 5 million people could be displaced. A lot of people would also be dead. It would have serious implications on the economies of not just the two countries, but the wider global community, including even those of us here in Ghana.
So does this simply means that diplomacy and dialogue had failed that has brought about what is happening now? Or is there still room?
Absolutely.
Is there still room for diplomacy and dialogue between Russia, Ukraine, and then the whole of Europe, or NECTO, or maybe the G8 or something?
Well, diplomacy never ends. And in security studies, we say diplomacy is the art of telling someone to go to hell. And the person would ask you, please, can you lead me there? Because you say it so nicely, he doesn't know you are asking him to go to hell.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
So it never ends. I mean, even in the midst of belligerence, in the
right,
midst of fight and killing, it still continues. The Americans were still bombing, using the mother of all bombs against the Taliban whilst they were engaging them in Doha.
yeah,
Okay, I understand there was a Russian delegation that was supposed to meet with the Ukrainians in Minsk in
right,
Belarus, but they said no, we're not going to allow that because Belarus was used as a staging post for the
yeah.
invasion. And I understand now they've come to the border and there's supposed to be a meeting. I'm hoping that the outcome would be progressive so the belligerence is stopped.
Right. Okay, let's look at the next question. We hear a lot of sanctions are being preferred against Russia. Do you think these sanctions will work? Take into account where Europe had to depend on Russia for their fuel, I mean, for their energy, etc., etc. 40% of the energy supply coming from for Russia, it's in for Europe, like Germany and other countries.
Well, the Putin I know, a former KGB agent, should have done all of this risk assessments before you go to war. You do a lot of risk assessments. He expected, I'm sure, he would expect that all of these sanctions will be put in place. Okay, America nearly went to war with North Korea under Trump, but they realized that hey, the risk is too much. So they decided to open arms and talk to each other. So Putin should have done a lot of risk assessment, and some of these sanctions there are bypasses to them. For example, the Chinese and the Iranians have had a way out because currently the three countries that are not on the SWIFT is Iran, Venezuela, and North Korea.
Yeah,
But they are still able to do a
they've
lot of
survived it.
transactions because they are
Yeah,
able to bypass. But we cannot run away from the fact that it will affect the Russian economy because a lot of these economic indicators are perception based.
yeah,
Okay, maybe it might not yield any serious consequence on the ground, but just because of the perceptions, it might affect the markets. Because in the early days of the invasion, the Dow Jones, just I think a day after the invasion,
yeah.
um, came down by about 3%, and fuel Brent crude went up to I think about 105 dollars per barrel. I don't know
Okay,
what the price currently, but of course it will affect the Russian economy. I have worked with government finance before. I've
right.
worked at the Ministry of Finance and a certain project called the Public Financial Management Reforms, and I know the significance of the SWIFT system. Without it, what it means is you will not be able to do any international transaction. But let us be mindful of the fact that one, it is not exhaustive. It's not every Russian bank that would be affected.
Yeah,
Two, they are not also targeting the energy sector. If not, Europe will not be able to pay for the gas. Three, it is also worth understanding that usually businesses are mutually beneficial. So let us not be made to think that it is only Russia it will affect. It's going to affect everybody for crying
yeah.
out loud. Okay. So I think there will be some consequence, but I don't think that will be enough to deter the Russians.
From history, we've realized that most developing countries will release sanctions on countries with the idea of trying to humble them, or maybe the indigenous will rise up and topple the administration. But it has never worked that way. Sanctions
So
have been
that,
released on Iraq for all these
yeah,
years. The
it's true.
administration is still there.
Venezuela,
Venezuela. So,
Iran.
in effect, the sanctioning, it looks like it's selective. I don't know. Can you give me some something on that? It's selective. They sanction certain aspect and then don't touch certain aspect, so that the administration can still be running. I don't know, but you are the expert, so
Okay.
tell me about that.
So recently, ECOWAS placed some serious sanctions on the Malian military authorities, thinking that the people would turn against them. But guess what? It rather made them more popular, because they came out in the streets and were castigating ECOWAS and rather praising their people. So when it happens that way, you, instead of putting pressure on the regime and making them unpopular, you make them popular, because all their inefficiencies will be based on the fact that, oh, we are under sanctions. I don't know
Okay,
whether you get where I'm coming from.
I get what you mean. Like
Good.
Libya,
So
like Gaddafi was had in sanctions for about 20 years, but he survived it.
good. So
Yeah.
good. So where there are inefficiencies, governmental inefficiencies, they are already, even without sanctions, they'll be useless. But with sanctions, then they use it as a care of. Oh, it's because of the sanctions we are not able to make progress.
Mhm.
You get me?
Yes.
It's just like COVID-19. A lot of governments, inefficient, corrupt governments, are using it as an excuse for their non-performance.
Mm.
Okay. Secondly, sanction, because there are bypasses. There's a lot happening in the black market. A lot of under dealers. You see a country, there's an arms embargo, but when you see the weapons that is used, you ask yourself, where is it coming from? Because we have a sophisticated network of certain powerful entities and individuals who are able to bypass these sanctions to their benefits.
Mm.
You see a lot of Toyotas and American uh, 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 weapons used
Yeah.
on the battlefield, and you ask yourself where it came from. It might not come directly from America.
Mhm.
Okay, America might sell it, or sell it to a legitimate country, which would also divert it to other purposes. So there are
That, that
different
that
ways and means.
that brings my mind to when US was fighting an ISIS in Syria. We saw some Toyota Land Cruisers, we saw some Tundras, and I said, how did these
Yeah,
guys get these cars?
yeah.
What you are saying is true. Let's move to the next question. Foreign policies, the foreign policy analysis. Do you think that the crisis presents an opportunity for African economy? For African economy, though some of us who are already trying to export oil, like Ghana, like Nigeria, Libya, Angola. Since for now, Russia is going through this turmoil, it's an opportunity for us to step up our game and then sign better deals with other countries.
I think that it rather gives us an opportunity to look inward with better trade partnership amongst Africans. I think it will do us a great deal of good. Um, because what is happening, I must say, would have serious implications, particularly when it comes to petroleum prices. When the price on the world market goes up, it affects petroleum prices in a lot of African countries, which affects everything, because all our lives evolves around petroleum. There are implications on food security as well. Um, Even though Ukraine and Russia only make up for 2% of global GDP, they make up quite a considerable percentage on wheat exportations. And a lot of countries in Africa, especially in North Africa, rely on wheat. Bread is a staple in these
Okay.
countries. And I must also say, it is political, highly political. Let's not forget that Umar al-Bashir, who is a long-time leader of Sudan, was finally ousted because bread prices went up. When bread prices go up, especially in North Africa, it is a major issue. Maybe in Sub-Saharan Africa, we might not really recognize because we have other staples. Okay, but in North Africa, it is a big deal. So this would have serious implications on food security as well. That is why we need to encourage local production. We need to work amongst ourselves because Africans trading amongst Africans is quite insignificant. We rather rely on the Chinese and
Yeah.
other countries when we can actually do it all by ourselves. And I think that also poses a big issue. Even though Ghana is an oil producing country, a lot of the oil we produce is not, used here. It goes elsewhere. And if we are able to capacitate the thermal oil refinery
Right.
to as it were, process the
Hmm.
oil into fuel, I think that the world market would not have any implication on
Yeah.
fuel prices in Ghana. Unfortunately, we also have people who benefit from the inefficiencies, which I must say is another day's topic.
Abib, you know what? When it comes to Ghana's oil, please I have to get you back here so that you can take us into it into in total. Now let's descend down to Ghana. Let's descend down to Ghana. How bad will this conflict going on between Russia and Ukraine affect Ghana? How is it going to affect Ghana? I mean, the West Africa region, but Ghana in particular.
Well, recently, fuel prices hit 7.99 cities. That's almost 8 cities. Um, that is causing a serious discomfort to particularly a lot of Ghanaians who already are complaining about the fact that their income is not very encouraging.
Yeah.
It has led to an increase in cost of living in the country. And so, what is happening with Russia, which is actually the third largest exporter of oil, would affect prices in Ghana. So, we are likely to even hit 9 cities a liter if government doesn't take immediate steps to subsidize or perhaps do something to reduce the impact. As we speak from tomorrow, I think transport fares will be increased by about 15 cities, 15% rather.
Oh wow.
The civil servants have not had any proper increase in their
Yeah.
salary. I think no increase at all. And UTAC has been on strike, even though some have decided to go back. A lot of them are not going back and all that. So this would
Right.
have serious implications on the cost of living in the country, which I must say is also significantly tied to fiscal security.
Yeah. You know, the news president was supposed to be here with us, but unfortunately he's in the traffic and the network is very bad. So since you are the security expert, I'm just going to ask you some few questions that had to do with our students that are in Ukraine. Um what do you know about the conditions of Ghanaian students in Ukraine?
Well, a lot of them have hunkered down. I saw a number of videos on social media showing some African students, I don't know specifically which countries they are coming from, trying to catch trains
Yeah.
to Poland and other parts of Europe. So far, we've not had any report of any students getting hurt.
Mhm.
Some of them are indoors. That is why it is advised that as much as you can, you stay indoors. There's a curfew in place from 5 p.m. to I think 6 a.m. the following day in the country.
Yeah.
Some have been advised to put off their lights so they don't become
A
targets
target.
by the Russians. So far, thankfully, nobody has been hurt.
I understand. I was listening to the press briefing. Somebody sent me a copy of the press briefing from 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 the government. Was it Flagstaff House? Yes. And it looks like most of the neighboring countries have decided to house some of our people. Um, my my security question here is that why did our people wait this long to start this embark? Because I've been watching CNN, I've been watching Fox News, I've been listening
Mhm.
to my president, Joe Biden. Joe Biden started warning the Americans
Mhm.
3 weeks ago. He said, Putin will go. He said, Putin will go. You understand what I'm saying? But people started doing this exercise. Local Ghanaian diplomats started doing this exercise just about 2 weeks ago. Why? As a security expert, intelligence. I mean, if you want the best intelligence, just listen to the American president gives his press conference. Oh, please, can you just
All
let me
right.
know?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. We also have the research department, which is under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that is the external intelligence arm of Ghana. So that is actually the CIA or
Of Ghana.
Mossad of Ghana.
Okay.
They are also supposed to gather intelligence. But even if they couldn't, like you rightly mentioned, we could have relied on Western intelligence. The Americans, the Europeans all pointed to the fact that there's an imminent attack. I mean, what do you expect when over 100,000 troops are moved all around Ukraine? Why? Were they coming to dance ballet for crying out loud? So I expected the Ghanaian authorities to quickly
Right.
act. But it is normal of them, so characteristic of the Ghanaian authorities, always reactive rather than being proactive. And this is not the first time. Even in Iraq, rather Libya, when
Libya.
Ghanaians were stranded there, it had to take the intervention of some third-party stakeholders to bring them home. When COVID-19 started and everybody at the point was evacuating, we left our students there and a lot of other Ghanaians in China, and it took them a very long time before they were able to come home. So I would have expected that at the point other countries were evacuating their citizens, we could have also taken advantage. But we waited until things deteriorated, and we start issuing very needless, I don't want to use certain words,
I understand.
statements,
I
which I
understand.
must say would not help. But at this time, even if the airspace was opened, it would have been very dangerous for us to try any evacuation, owing to what happened some few years back in eastern Ukraine when Russian-backed separatists shot down flight MH17, resulting in the death of about 293 souls. When Iran also wanted to retaliate over the killing of Soleimani, they downed um, a civilian airliner. So at this time, it becomes very dangerous because
Right.
anything in the air becomes a target to
Mhm.
either the Russians or the Ukrainians. And that I must say is dangerous. Even road transport is also
Right.
dangerous because we are in a war situation for crying out loud. I mean, things can get out of hand, things can de escalate. You never know. So I
Yeah.
think that this is quite unfortunate.
Yeah. It's almost 31 minutes in the first program. I'm going to ask you the question that no one is asking globally. None of the media is asking this question, and I'm going to ask you this question. Saddam Hussein attacked Kuwait, and immediately the whole world says you got to move out of there within 2 weeks. Now, Russia is invading into Ukraine, and our people are just saying that he will come as a security expert. This is the question no one is asking, and I'm asking this question.
But
Now,
when Russia invaded Ukraine, I didn't hear your last part. When Russia
now,
invaded Ukraine, now people said what? I didn't hear that.
no, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, the whole world, the whole armies made sure they got him out of there. Now, Russia is invading. Um, what's the name of the town?
Ukraine.
Ukraine. And no one is talking about we going to rescue these people. They are only doing giving sanctions and giving them money and giving them weapons, etc., etc. Does it look like when it comes to the world stage, the bigger you are, the less provocation they give you? Because hey, the guy wants his land back. Saddam Hussein was also wanting his land back. Yeah.
I think it all boils to nuclear deterrence.
Mm,
Okay, Russia is not Iraq. Russia is not Iran. Uh, Russia is a force to reckon with. So you need to
mm,
tread cautiously. You need to be circumspect what you are going into. And I think that there's a secret, perhaps undocumented agreement between particularly the US and Russia not to get into direct confrontation. They both have presence in Syria. But guess what? When the Americans are going to bomb, they inform the Russians and vice versa. They have presence, both of them, in Libya. They respect each other's stuff
mm,
because you wouldn't want a direct US Russia confrontation. That would be cataclysmic.
mm.
That would become something else. Okay, so you cannot have these countries going in. Besides, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, so the only thing they can do is just to supply them with arms and perhaps just to keep up with the sanctions regime
Right.
to there. But it's almost unthinkable for anyone to intervene
Is it
directly.
is it possible right now? We are looking at the whole globe and the security issue. Is it possible for you to predict something for me? China and Taiwan. Looking at Russia just invading Ukraine, you think
Mhm.
China is being emboldened to also do the same?
Yes, 100%. But you see, China is a production powerhouse. I mean, they are rising by the day, and I don't think President Xi would want his country's economy to be affected in any way. So that is why he's also treading cautiously. Because if he tries Taiwan, which I must say is also armed to the teeth,
Mm,
with the West supplying them weapons, even though I mean China is way bigger than Taiwan, but that would also come with slapping, sweeping sanctions against China. And China has a lot of interest outside of China in the US, in Western Europe, and other places than Russia. Okay, so I don't think that they would attempt it. If not, they will be drawing themselves decades back. Okay,
right.
we have similar situations in India, which has occupied Kashmir. That one
Kashmir.
nobody is talking
No
about
one
it.
is talking
We have
about it.
we have the Israelis, they've occupied Gaza and the West Bank, and every day there are expansions. Even UN foreign policy, US foreign policy is
Yeah.
against those expansions. And that is why Obama fell out with Netanyahu and
Mhm.
so many other countries. But like we always say, it depends on your strategic interest. And when it comes to foreign policy, there's nothing like morality. Sisi, who has killed a lot of his own people in the name of Muslim Brotherhood, is still a very good friend to the West, with America giving him billions of dollars every year as part of their military
Mhm.
budget. So it depends on their interest. I mean, they don't care. You can kill the whole of your population once it is in our interest. That's it.
Habib, why don't you just promise me that you'll come back on this show and then we'll do a lot of justice to so many things that's going on. I need to ask you so many questions, but the time is running out. And I just
Sure,
want to
sure.
say,
I'm
listen,
I'm
Habib,
always available. I'm always
I,
available.
I I I respect you so much and I love you so much. And I'm so excited that you made it on the show.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you.
Just
I really appreciate it.
just look into the camera and tell our administration what they need to do so that our folks back in Ukraine, the students, and then those who are documented and not, they are not talking about the undocumented who are in Ukraine. Listening to the press conference, only emphasis are laid on students and those with a Ghanaian passport. What about those who are not on document? Those who are Ghanaians, but who
But
got the who?
undocumented.
Yeah, exactly. No one is talking about them.
And it's wrong because it is the responsibility of every government to ensure the safety of its citizens, whether they are home or abroad. That is the main function of the state. Whether they are documented, whether they are students, whether they are businessmen, it is your responsibility to ensure their safety. It is sad that we haven't been able to take any action to ensure their safety before the war. Now that it has started, I would wish to advise the government to keep in touch with the students, if not directly through their leadership. Just as the Western countries like America has travel advisories for its citizens wherever they are going, we need to keep our students very well informed. If there are places we feel they can hunker down and ensure their safety, why not? If there are tips we are supposed to give them, the government, in collaboration with the Russians or perhaps the Ukrainian authorities, are supposed to organize special road trips or train trips to get them out. Why not? Okay. And I'm hoping that in the end, all our students, our documented, other documented or undocumented Ghanaians are safe. But going forward, it is instructive to note that the government needs to be proactive rather than reactive. And that is extremely key.
Thank you so much, Adib Saani, foreign policy and security analyst. In fact, you have proven your worth. You've
Thank you
done
so much.
justice.
I'm
I mean,
so
you've taken
grateful.
all the questions out of me, and I am just praying to the Lord that Inshallah, if I should send a request to you again, you'll come and then do more justice. It is my wish that by next week we should hear some good news from Ukraine and
Amen.
Russia. But if the conflict still continues, then it means that you are going to be a special guest on this program.
Then I pray I don't be a special guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our big brother Adib Saani, who is a foreign policy and security analyst, and you can bear witness for yourself. He is into it, into in total. And if we should continue with the program, I know the whole day he's just going to be telling us what is going on. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that before we go to bed, let us just say a little prayer for our brothers and sisters who are in Ukraine. Sometimes when things like this happen, those who suffer most are our children, our wives, etc., etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was political affairs. And stay tuned next week's Sunday for another episode, ladies and gentlemen.